everybody. How are you? I hope your weekend is wonderful. I hope you're enjoying the NFL. I saw the Jets just recovered an onside kick. So if you're into that, I hope you're enjoying it. Listen, today we have a really important guest. We have someone joining us all the way from Thailand, JOEYBATS4. You may have seen his threads in the past where he analyzes the market and what is it, the money velocity. I'm sure he'll cover some of these things when we bring him on in a second. But hello to those of you who are here. Before we bring in Joey, I just thought it would be important to briefly touch on the Run It backpacks, just to get my thoughts out there real quick, because we're not really going to be talking about Run It backpacks too much with Joey. So here's the way I feel about the Run It backpacks. Big picture is that this is a victory for NBA Top Shot. Big picture. The comms is good. The art is good. The fact that they were able to get all these players on board is good. This is all really good. And if you're not concerned about things like supply and the value of the bags that you're holding, then there's nothing to worry about here. However, if you are concerned about things like that, well, that's where the critical thinking begins. If you look at the player list for, let's say, the archive set, for example, there are some players that have to be Googled to know who they are, at least for me. And I imagine for many other fans who are currently on NBA Top Shot. Now, that's just one of these things where if you're concerned about supply, that might be a little bit worrying. And again, you fall into either one of two camps. If you're just going to go snipe a few moments that you enjoy, go for it. And if you want to celebrate the fact that we're going to have Hakeem Olajuwon, Karl Malone, and a Larry Bird Challenge Award, etc., well, then you can celebrate that as well. So to me, two separate camps there. But for those of us that are concerned about supply, concerned about the market, there's a very much a duality of emotion happening, I would say. Anyway, that's the way I feel about that. And real quickly, I also just wanted to show you, once I started looking at some of these moments, a moment that I thought we had to show you because I thought there's a little Easter egg that kind of aligned with Tandy Time a little bit. I just wanted to show that to you. It's this Karl Malone moment. So if you look very carefully, and we just got the beginning of the moment, so just give us a second here. But look, oh, is it slow for you guys? Hold on. Maybe this isn't even going to work. Hold on. Hopefully you guys can see this. I don't know. Joey, are you back there? Can you see this? Thumbs up if you can see it. Okay. Anyway, well, this whole bit just got destroyed. But the big idea here is that Karl Malone, at the end of the moment, he goes to slap someone's hand, and it's awkward. He gets the top of his hand, and then there's a little bit of this. So I thought before we bring in Joey, let's just bring back our favorite lost handshake.
So I appreciate it. Yeah, man, that was an awkward fist bump. Don't clip that. Don't clip that.
So anyway, that is the Karl Malone moment at the end of the moment. Go check it out for yourself. It wasn't really working very well on my end. But without further ado, I don't want to keep Joey waiting too much longer. It is 4 o'clock in the morning in Thailand, where he's calling in from. So I looked for a clip that I had in the library that would make sense for Joey. I'm going to play that and bring him in.
Figure it out.
All right, so that is the video dedicated to one Joey Bats, who spends his time writing very long Twitter threads and trying to figure out the NBA Top Shot market and how it works and what are the threats to the health of it and how to make things go well with it. So thank you, Joey, for joining us from Thailand. How are you feeling right now at 4 o'clock in the morning?
I'm pretty tired, Tandy. But it's only 3:10 here, so it's not
Okay.
as bad as it seems. But yeah, no, I've had a coffee. I've had this triple espresso from 7-Eleven, which is I think safe to drink. And I've had a second triple espresso from 7-Eleven, which I think makes it a sextuple espresso, which might not be safe to drink. But
so you feel your heart pounding out of your chest right now, I'd imagine.
It's a strange feeling. It's a strange feeling, but we'll see how it goes.
So
hopefully, yeah. Sure.
So first of all, Joey, I think you were also commenting on this thread, and I saw that somebody was asking in the chat here, Top Shot, Hot Shot. There was a thread right now that's got quite a bit of activity on it about the idea of trade tickets. And MBL was talking about it, how he doesn't really like the way that trade tickets work, to be using trade tickets as currency. And Top Shot, Hot Shot was asking for my opinions about this. I was curious though, also for your opinions on this, which was, he sees a problem with gamification of moments. On one hand, I do see that argument, because if we're going to compare things to like physical cardboard, there's no utility there. You collect things because you collect them and they're scarce and they're, wonderful in your opinion. On the other hand, I just think that this is something completely different, and you just can't compare the two things, because this is a digital collectible. It opens up opportunities for you to get experiences that you couldn't otherwise purchase, which I think is the sweet spot of NBA Top Shot, or where it should be. Anyway, long story short, trade tickets. Is there a world where we wouldn't be using trade tickets and that would be good for the platform? How did we get here with trade tickets?
Okay, well, there's a few things to unpack here. So the question is gamification. Let's start with gamification first.
Okay.
So if you are the owner of existing moments, expensive moments like MBL is, or you don't want gamification. Utility is something that gets diluted over time. Look at, say, flash challenges, for example. As more moments come out, the probability of your moment being used for a flash challenge decreases, and the number of eligible moments, even if your moment does qualify, that will increase. So like the utility decreases over time. Mm-hmm. But from a greater perspective, should Top Shot just be, you can see how sweaty I am. I don't know. Should Top Shot just be a collectible, or should there be utility? And I've seen the argument that goes, it can be both. A collectible plus utility is better than just a collectible. One plus something positive. But I don't think that's the case. You've got to take a step back and think about what Top Shot is, right? It's not a video clip. I mean, it is ostensibly a video clip, but people don't pay lots of money for a video clip. If you want to watch a video clip, you can do that for free with commentary. You can watch a whole game for free. You can see what happens before and after. It's a much better experience if that's what you're actually getting. It's the same thing with baseball cards or stamps or whatever. You're not actually buying the item. You don't care about the picture on a baseball card. You don't care about a stamp or coin or whatever. What you're paying for is the experience of collecting. You're buying emotions. And it sounds weird to describe it as that, as spending money for emotions. But that is what we kind of do with everything in life. There are people watching NFL today, probably more than are watching us even. And they've spent money on.
That's fair to say.
and they've spent money on NFL jerseys, right? Like official NFL jerseys, and they might have stuff at home, NFL stuff. Why? It's so collecting, and just a caveat here, I'm not a psychologist, but I did read a couple of papers in advance of this on the psychology of collecting, because I found it pretty interesting. Like, why do people spend money on this stuff? Why did I spend money on this stuff? And it turns out that the collecting is something that humans have done for a very long time. There's evidence of humans collecting that goes back over 100,000 years, collecting seashells that had no utility, just collecting them. And it's something we like to do. Estimates, depending on how you define collecting, something like half or over half of adults collect, and an even larger percentage of children collect things. It's something that just about everybody does. And the question is why, right? And there are a number of theories, and it's quite complicated. There's no one overriding theory, but some of the emotions. If you think about the feelings that you experience when you buy things, when you buy a collectible, if you take the time to actually think about what you're feeling, you'll understand. So it's kind of late here.
But real quick, I would just say though,
yeah.
would you not agree though that there's a difference between collecting, let's say, your favorite NFL player's jersey, which I can understand what you're talking about when there's this connection. It's our self-identity, it's emotion, it's like the joy that we feel when we wear that jersey, etc. But in this case, there might be an element of that. However, I think that there's a larger element, especially when we're talking about crypto NFT, crypto bros. That's kind of where the beginning of all this. They're like the genesis of NFTs, of NBA Top Shot. Wouldn't you say that there's a larger element of this that is more based in speculation and, I mean, greed?
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. I'd say like virtually just, I don't know, a very high percentage of the people that got into Top Shot did so for speculative purposes. That's absolutely true. But in order for there to be a reason to speculate, there has to be a product that people want to collect. Because what you're speculating on is that collecting interest will grow. And what the collecting interest is the emotions, the experience behind collecting. And collecting a collectible, there are emotions associated with that change when utility is added. It becomes a very different thing. So, one of the reasons that people like to collect, at least according to the papers that I read, which I tend to agree with, is it gives people a way to create and manage tension. Life is pretty boring without challenges. And some challenges in life, or most challenges in life, are not within your control. What will go on at work, whatever. With collecting, you can set your own goals that are just within grasp. I want to collect this thing and that thing and this thing, or whatever. And when you do, unlike with other things in life, you have pretty clear feedback that you have attained your goal. You can do a good job at work, but you're not really sure if you did a good job at work. You can, whatever. What Top Shot has done is change that collecting experience. So that, because it keeps changing the rules, but by adding gamification, you're no longer, if you had collected for one purpose, and then gamification changes the value of your items for a reason that you didn't expect, that is a negative emotion. You're upset with that. It becomes something you don't want to collect. Should have done this. I should have done this interview earlier.
Hold on one second. I can't tell if that's my end or yours. Chat, let me know. Are we both coming in glitchy or just Joey? Joey might have to refresh his internet connection over there. Let me know in the chat how that's working. Right now, though, let's see. It says connection's fairly good. Let's see here, but I'm not hearing Joey at all. Just Joey. Okay. Well, Joey is frozen at the moment, so we will kill some time and hopefully Joey. Okay, so I just got a message from him. Internet cut out. Anyway, okay, a little break in the action here. Um, I didn't expect Joey to go that route. Actually, we're getting like what's the word? Is it anthropology? No, I think so. A lesson in anthropology. Okay, he's back. So Joey's telling us about
Hey,
how people collected seashells and such, and how we have emotional connections, and how the rules, when the rules are changed for utility, and what that means, it can tend to make people feel badly. But I imagine that you're talking about when it makes your moments worth less. I mean, if you're holding those Brantleys on the Jazz and those spike in value, just to make this a very specific Top Shot example, does that also make you feel badly that the things are changing, even if your things are worth more money?
it's more complex than that, and I did a terrible job of explaining it. But like the idea is that collecting provides certain emotional experiences, right? And that's why you collect. And utility doesn't add to that experience; it changes it. And you're willing to pay a certain amount for one experience, and you're willing to pay a different amount for another experience. What I'm saying is they're not additive. That's why you find with a lot of projects, once utility comes out and they see the value of the utility, it actually causes prices to decline. It's
Yeah.
because well, there are a number of factors. One, you now have a way to measure the value, but two, it changes the collecting experience, right? When there's no utility, you're filled with this like hope and excitement and wonder about what might occur. And then when you get and that's something that's exciting and you're willing to pay a lot for. And then when the utility arrives, that feeling you had before is gone.
So Joey,
Um,
really quick,
yeah.
did you also put money into NFTs other than NBA Top Shot? Like, have you have more experiences in this stuff with other stuff as well, other NFT projects?
Yeah, well, I mean, a little bit.
Well, I know
So
your
I got
PFP is a ballers. I know, so that's one example.
right. So yeah, I had that, and then I guess I bought a couple other ones that like I got to mint for, or the whitelist for. That went up in value quite a bit, and I didn't sell, and now they're worthless. I think it's a pretty common story. I wish I had sold them.
Yeah, that's common. That's a
Um,
common story.
yeah, but this whole PFP craze that occurred over the last year, um, like so to a significant extent, that started with NBA Top Shot, right?
Yep.
You had that big bubble back in December through February, back in late 2020 to early 21,
Yep.
and with Top Shot and the extraordinary heights that it reached so quickly. Some moments went up like 30, 40,000% in a matter of months. That created this idea that NFTs could achieve, you know, extraordinary value simply by being the first or something, or having some sort of scarcity. And we can talk about the bubble later, but like the impact that Dapper, like the Dapper guys have had on the whole Web3 space is extraordinary, right? Because uh, a lot of like the Bored Ape people, they started with Top Shot. Some Top Shot led to the whole PFP craze, but before that, the Dapper guys with CryptoKitties, they're a big part of why Ethereum became popular. I understand.
Yeah.
So they kind of kicked off everything with their two bubbles, the CryptoKitty bubbles and NBA Top Shot bubbles, um, which is kind of
So
interesting, I guess.
So I know you talk a lot about the market and the effect of packs on the market, and I think the word, if I'm remembering correctly, it was money velocity that you talk about. Maybe I don't know if I got that right or not, but um, tell us a little bit about where your thoughts are at, specifically as we are approaching S4, and how we've heard that there are goals of being net neutral, perhaps even net negative. Where are you going with that when you hear those kind of things? Like, does that make you optimistic, or what are you thinking right now?
So I'm not optimistic at all. I'm quite pessimistic. I think that the NBA Top Shot doesn't make sense for people, for users, for a number of reasons. The first and the biggest is the pretty extreme conflict of interest between Dapper and users. Dapper earns its money from pack sales and commission, and a lot of that money is sucked out of funds from the secondary market. And as long as that conflict of interest exists, it doesn't make sense to buy Top Shot moments, you know. So that, so that's, and they've got a record of not just of that conflict of interest not just existing, but them acting on it, right? And it's obvious. Everybody knows what's going on. Like, there's a reason why people are so upset about Dapper's minting decisions and pricing. Like, if you're a basketball card collector and you've got a bunch of cards from the 2018 or 2019 or older cards or whatever, you're not sitting there with bated breath wondering how many packs Panini will, or how many cards, whatever, Panini will print next year and what the prices of the packs will be. Like, the only reason you care about that is because you might be interested in buying those, and you want to see what sort of value you'd be getting if you buy them. With Top Shot, because everything's connected, because of the Dapper wallet, and we can go into that in a bit, you care what Dapper does because it affects the values of the existing product. So as long as that conflict of interest exists, what are you doing? Like, why buy moments if there's a for-profit company that becomes more profitable by making your moments go down in value?
Well, but when you look at other examples, or during periods of time when things were trending upward, right? It's hard to say over a long period of time where this goes or what happens in the market, I would think. I mean, I know you have your idea of what happens and you feel pretty confident in that. But for example, you look at what's going on right now with NFL All Day. I think it would be fair to say that NFL All Day was able to start their product with some lessons learned already, because those are all people that came from NBA Top Shot. And we're seeing that the NFL All Day market hasn't suffered some of those missteps around supply, and we're seeing that values are doing pretty well in that example. So do you think that this is a case where you would apply the same type of thinking, let's say, to NFL All Day, the fact that they also make revenue from packs and commissions, and therefore it's the same story for you? Or do you think that that is an example where the pieces are a little bit different, and perhaps Top Shot could also work its way toward a better situation like that as well in the future?
No, they're one and the same, right? They suffer from the exact same problem with the conflict of interest. All Day will want to make its money, and that money is going to come from the secondary market, a part of it eventually. So here, let's talk about how prices work, why All Day is working right now, and why NBA Top Shot has not been working for a while. So on an aggregate level, you've got aggregate demand, which is the total amount of money that people are willing to spend on moments. And then you've got your supply. On the demand side, right? Well, okay. So let's start with NBA Top Shot. Any decision that Dapper makes can have an impact on demand. It can have an impact on supply. So what we're interested in is what change to demand does an act have, and what change on supply does an act have. So for overall demand, how do we measure overall demand? Well, we can't measure it exactly, right? Like, I don't know what you're willing to spend on Top Shot Moments. I don't know what someone else is willing to spend on Top Shot Moments. But what we do have is the Dapper wallet, okay? And what the Dapper wallet does is it segregates each person's money into one pile in the Dapper wallet that they're pretty likely to spend on Moments, and then all their other money, which they're much less likely to spend on Moments. You know, if I gave you $500 and I put it into your Dapper wallet, you're much more likely to spend that on Moments than if I just, you know, if someone gave you $500 and, you know, put it in your bank account. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you can measure the effect, you know, the change in demand by assessing the change in Dapper balances. So let's say, for example, with this run it back pack, we've got $2 million in pack prices, I think, roughly, right?
Yep.
That $2 million comes from somewhere. Now, I don't know how much of that is new cash and how much of that comes from Dapper balance, whether that's money that's just sitting around or money that is acquired by selling existing Moments. It doesn't matter. New cash doesn't have, you know, that immediate impact of causing demand to fall. But when you use Dapper balance, reducing Dapper balance, that lowers demand. The less money that are in Dapper wallets, the lower the overall demand. So let's say, I don't know, 50% comes new cash and 50% is, you know, from Dapper wallet. So that's $1 million, right? That's $1 million. And then we've got these, Moments hitting the marketplace. Now, some of the new Moments will be bought with existing balance, which is fine, and some of the new Moments will be purchased with cash, and that cash is a plus to the market. So the question is, what is the overall effect on demand? And in most cases, you know, unless the percentage of packs are bought with cash, the effect will be that demand overall decreases. And add in the effect of all those extra transactions, which leads to more commissions and more cash leaving Dapper wallets. And then additionally, with packs, you've got an increase in supply, and you need enough cash to come into the market to support the value of the new supply in order to keep prices neutral. So even if you say there's no change in demand, just from the increase in supply, you need more cash to keep price levels as a whole.
Sure.
So recapping everything here, right? With demand, we've got things, we're looking at money in Dapper wallets. And here's what adds to demand. New cash deposits, or if you're looking at NBA Top Shot, money brought from other Dapper products to NBA Top Shot. And here's what causes demand to fall. You got people withdrawing money, people moving money away from NBA Top Shot to other Dapper products. You've got pack purchases, and you've got commissions. On the supply side, yeah, you've got Moments in the marketplace. I've spoken enough about this, but you know,
Sure.
more Moments back. NBA Top Shot or Dapper, it controls a lot of these levers, right? It controls how much cash leaves for pack purchases. It controls commissions. You know, it can't control withdrawals or deposits or money moving between products, but it does have a lot of control over demand, and it has control over supply. So if it wants the prices to go up, right, it can make it happen. If it wants the prices of NBA Top Shot to increase, what it needs to do is prevent existing money in wallets being used to purchase new packs to go to Dapper. You know, one way it could do that is by requiring purchases to be made with cash. Now that'd be kind of weird because how do you actually prevent people from withdrawing and using cash or whatever? But anyways, what what All Day is doing right now, right? It knows that it's got certain amount of money coming in, being moved over from Top Shot and new cash purchases. And the reason, new deposits. And the reason it's going up is because those positives are outweighing the negatives, pack purchases and commissions, and the money needed to offset new supply that it controls. So with either product, you can, they can measure. We see, look, this much cash is coming in. We control most of the outflows. We just have to make sure that the outflows are lower than the inflows.
What would you say though in terms of, because something that I know that I've seen with All Day, although I haven't been very active in All Day, but for example, they're doing many burning challenges, let's say. So like they are aware of the effect of reducing supply to add more. So you're earning packs, but you have to burn to get those packs. So do you think that there's some kind of equilibrium that can exist where it's not this, I don't know, like a tick that's sort of sucking the blood out, but it's more of like, can keep things level, it can keep things more natural depending on what's happening in the day-to-day of the market?
So, provided there is cash coming in, it's possible to maintain an equilibrium, right? I mean, Dapper's just got to make sure that it's making the decision so that the cash outflows are less or equal to the cash inflows. And if there aren't enough cash inflows, it can actually send money back out into the market to make sure that that equilibrium does exist. But on burning, I don't think burning is a solution to anything, right? Because you look at burning, and there are two scenarios where people burn stuff. In one case, you burn moments with X value, and in exchange, you receive something of Y value. Now, on the supply side, it's not the number of moments that matters, it's the value of the moments, or the money needed to support the value of the moments. So burning, for example, so it doesn't matter if there are 5 moments worth $10 or 1 moment worth $50. On the supply side, it's the same thing. Now, if you're burning moments to receive something of greater value, that's actually harming the market, because you need more cash to support that extra value. Now, if it's the other way around, where you're burning, say, $50 in moments to get something worth $30, well, that's helping the market because supply is actually being reduced. But that's not something that people are going to do in the long run, because why would you burn $50 worth of something to receive $30?
Yeah.
So I don't think burning is an effective solution if people act like rationally when it comes to, or not rationally, but when it comes to their reward. Now, one thing is that people are willing to burn $50 worth of something for something that might have an expected value of $30, but has a distribution where they can make a lot more than 50. People like to gamble. People like packs. It's fun. That would be an effective way of reducing supply, burning moments to receive packs.
And we saw that too when they were doing the loot packs, and there were loot packs that you had to buy with trade tickets, for example. So people were paying for more than the expected value of loot packs, and some people would hit home runs and others wouldn't. And I mean, that's probably what we're going to see with these run it backpacks as well. It's like, I think actually Pack Grip made a tweet sort of about this, which is like, in a way, you're paying almost for that gamble, that thrill, that the thrill of ripping a pack is sort of the premium that you're paying, knowing that you might lose money overall. So there's people who are more ROI focused and aren't interested and don't want to get involved, and there's people who are willing to take the gamble. I mean, you can look at the query or the survey that I have going on right now. We have some votes but there's people saying that yes, they will buy these packs, and it's not like an overwhelming no, let's say. So that definitely is a fair amount. Let's see. So Dr. Dunks is asking a question here. Do you think playbook challenges are more likely to bring in new cash since they are more time sensitive? So that's the NFL all day playbook challenges.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't know. But the answer, let's say the answer is yes. And it brings in, a lot of new cash, and that leads to overall demand increasing. And let's say that is more than the amount needed to offset the new supply. Then what you'll see is an increase in prices. However, that's the short-term effect. In the long run, we know that Dapper Labs wants to make its money. It's got investors, and I'm sure, when it went out to investors and made its projections, its revenue is growing, right? And it wants to satisfy its investors. It's also got partners. With NBA Top Shot, I believe it has a revenue sharing agreement with the licensing bodies, and those parties want their revenue in order to be happy. And it doesn't have the license to make NBA Top Shot in perpetuity. It expires, I think, like sometime in the end of this decade. And if you're the NBA, or think 450, or like the license holder for NBPA, you're looking at renewing that license within the next few years, or awarding that license to someone else, or making it a non-exclusive license. And if the numbers that Dapper Labs is putting up in the next couple of years suck, it's going to look elsewhere, right? Like, it doesn't care about Top Shot. It just wants to make sure that it's getting its money, whether that comes from a Dapper Labs product or some other company creating a digital video collectible, or some other type of collectible that replaces these. It doesn't matter. It just wants to maximize the money that it gets. So Dapper's got to satisfy these parties, right? So even though, like with All Day, for example, it can look at the amount of money coming in and say, all right, we can take out this amount of money without causing prices to fall. It can't just do that. It's got to make a certain amount of money. And that's the problem, right? Like, its interest is not the same as ours. If it had this product for 100 years and its goal was to maximize revenue for 100 years, then it would want to print moment so that it doesn't have a harmful effect on the secondary market. But it doesn't have that luxury. And us wishing that it would change the way it operates is, it's not going to happen, right? Because it's not really up to them. They've got to make the money.
But I just think that in terms of, like, for example, Top Shot, I think that if any business is running with what you're describing, sounds kind of, in a way, short-term focused, which is like, we need to extract as much as we can as soon as we can. And I think that, depending on how you see it, when the over minting happened, you could make an argument that maybe that was what was going on, or they were trying to take advantage of what looked really good on paper, and therefore let's just kind of keep this going. But I think at the same time, if they're trying to grow this product, and I know that that's one of their biggest indicators for S4s, like, they're trying to pump money into marketing and just bring on the masses, et cetera, et cetera. And there's part of me that thinks that that's also why they over minted, because they had maybe too much confidence in that they would be able to do that sooner rather than how long it would actually take organically. But don't you think that if they have this very short-term thinking, they're going to burn out their users and they won't be able to churn that money that they're looking for anymore?
Yeah, I do think that.
But then that's
But
why
they've made a fortune in the last year, right?
Right, but
And
like you
like I
said, they
said,
have this for like the next decade or near the next decade, whatever it is, 7, 6, 7, 8 years, whatever it is. Obviously, I would imagine they don't want to burn out their user base in the next year, let's say, and then just lose their biggest customers that quickly. It doesn't make sense to me.
sure, they need to keep it alive just enough, right? So that's why you get these little nuggets of like nice things, but they don't have the luxury of building a long-term product because they don't have a long-term product, right?
But don't you
They,
think that this could be something that is long term? Because when you
it could
consider,
be.
because when you
That's
when you
not how
made
they're
the
acting,
okay, but
right?
when you think about like if the NBA were to look at digital collectibles and who has the infrastructure in place and who has the connections and the relationships in place, I would be pretty shocked if they looked elsewhere when you see that Dapper has these relationships already with other big brands. I mean, I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, which was that um, this was kind of because what you're talking about, sorry, but what you're talking about now is how Dapper makes its money. The bulk of its money is being made from like selling packs, which is undeniable, right? Then it's like it makes money from the commissions off the marketplace, which was really high back in like February. It's no longer that way. It's bet by and large, it's all around packs. However, we were seeing these relationships being built with like Budweiser, with Ticketmaster, and that was giving me a little bit of hope that maybe they are able to find other revenue areas, other revenue models, and therefore there doesn't have to be this focus on pack money, and they could actually make money based on what they've built, this massive logistical behemoth that they are still creating. What do you think about that?
I think it got those other deals because of the bubble that it created in December through February.
So no
But,
credit
but, but
given to the fact that they have created like the normie NFT. They've created like the easiest onboarding.
what Dapper has done is both extraordinary and awful. Um, it's really done both. So again, going back to collecting. Collecting is this human experience that goes back 100,000 years, maybe more. That's just as far back as the evidence of us doing it. And for all of that time, there have been very few changes to the collecting experience. And Dapper has come in and revolutionized it, right? Like, look what collecting Top Shot moments like compared to collecting basketball cards or any other physical collectible, right? Look at all of like the points of anxiety in a traditional collectible. You've got to, find the product. You've got to find the physical product you want. You've got to determine its condition. You've got to assess its authenticity. You've got to find buyers. You've got to worry about shipping. All these things, right? Dapper made all those points of anxiety. You've got to negotiate with people. Dapper made all of these things kind of go away. And it deserves, lots of credit there, right? Sort of. What it's also done is ruin collecting because of the Dapper wallet. And I don't know if it was intentional or unintentional, but what the Dapper wallet has done is a couple different things. One, it has made new product a direct competitor with existing product because it all comes from the same pool of money. So like, as I was saying before, new cards don't compete with old cards. With Dapper, they do, right? Its new moments compete with your old moments. If you've got a moment that's worth $100 and Dapper comes out with a pack with an expected value of 120 and it costs $100, well, you'd be an idiot not to sell your moment and buy Dapper's product. And Dapper can just keep doing that, right? Like it can just lower the price, and kind of undercut existing collectibles and just keep taking money from the secondary market. And that's a bad thing. And you can also say that some of these like positives that Dapper has done in reducing these anxieties and inefficiencies that used to be part of the collecting experience, that are part of the physical collecting experience, that might be a bad thing. Because, part of the collecting experience is this idea that you have become an expert at something. And, with those inefficiencies and those obstacles make it more difficult to become an expert and also more rewarding. To become an expert at NBA Top Shot, you just got to spend a bit of time on the website. Look at the marketplace, see what's happening, follow Twitter a bit. It's much easier and less rewarding. And it also makes the financial aspect of it front and center for everything. You can't deal with NBA Top Shot without seeing the price for everything all the time. It doesn't work that way with collectibles. You collect like figurines or whatever. Every once in a while you'll check in on the pricing. It's not the price that is front and center in your mind. With NBA Top Shot, it is. And the combination of making the price front and center with the price going down, it makes it an unpleasant experience. Like, who enjoys that? If the prices go down, don't let me see it, but with Dapper, price is everything. So anyway, I forget what the question was.
I actually forget as well. But I think that for those reasons that you're saying, though, that's why I almost think that you can't be the only person thinking this way, especially not on their side as well. And I would imagine that decisions are being made to counteract some of this stuff. And maybe that's a good chance to pivot, because I know that you promised a little bit of optimism in this discussion, which is what. So, I mean, Coffee says you are even more bearish than he is. But hold on, actually, real quick. Ever heard of MetaMask and Phantom not following the FUD on the Dapper wallet? Ballers and all-day money can flow back to Top Shot. But would your argument against that just be that because there's more and more product that continually exists, that's why it's different? Or because Coffee makes a good argument as well. I think we're seeing that as well on NFTs. It's like so many new NFTs also. That's also a supply issue, right?
Yeah. So going back to the Dapper wallet issue, it used to be that it was just NBA Top Shot. That was like the only thing you could buy with the Dapper wallet, and then more products came in. So when I say money in the Dapper wallet, what I really mean is Dapper is money in your Dapper wallet that you have earmarked towards NBA Top Shot. So cash in includes money being brought from that was like earmarked from other products and brought into the Dapper wallet and is now earmarked towards NBA Top Shot. And cash out is money that was earmarked for NBA Top Shot and is now being used for all day or whatever. And that's that's another one of the reasons why prices have gone down. Is that's one of the cash outflows, right? Money that was being used for NBA Top Shot, now being used for other products. And yes, there are cash inflows too. I'm sure there are some people that have deposited cash, to buy all day moments and then use some of that to buy, Top Shot or change over to Top Shot. What's the net effect? I don't know.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Well, all right. So then hit me with some optimism. Go tell me what's your scenario where some of these things that you're concerned about can change in your perspective.
Yeah. So it's tough, Tandy.
You promised.
So I did promise. All right. So I don't think that it's a sustainable product with the conflict of interest that exists. Because even if Dapper changes the way it acts, and for the next few years even, it mints the appropriate amount of moments at the appropriate prices to not have a negative effect on secondary moments. Anyone that wants to invest for the long term has this enormous risk hanging over them that at some point in the future, Dapper will return to the behavior that it's exhibited in the last 18 months. So as long as that conflict exists, it's pretty hard to see a rosy future. So how do we get rid of that conflict? There are two ways, and neither of them I think Dapper is willing to do. The first way is to hand over control of minting decisions to an independent body that is tasked with minting the appropriate amount to balance, based on the amount of cash inflows that come into the market. That will restore investor confidence, and just that act alone will probably increase, cash inflows, and I think would be best for the long-term interest of the product. And I think it would revolutionize collecting. But I don't see Dapper doing that because, it needs to make money, right? Like, what if the independent body comes in and says, hey, look, cash flow is actually negative this year because people are withdrawing more than they're depositing, or people have only put in, $500,000 in cash. That's all we're projecting for the next little while. So, I don't think Dapper is willing to do that. As we said before, it's got partners, it's got investors. It can't just relinquish control over its revenue-making decisions. The second method, which I don't think Dapper is willing to do either, and would also crater prices in the short term, is to remove the Dapper wallet. The Dapper wallet is the reason why new product competes with existing product. But like one thing that the Dapper wallet does, as you mentioned before, we didn't talk about it, is create
I think we might be losing you again. All right. I think Joey's Thai internet is failing him once again. So he will probably remove himself and come back in a couple of minutes if I had to guess. But anyhow, chat, this has definitely been a little bit of a different interview, I must say. But we welcome all. We welcome all. So I'm just going to remove Joey for now, and when I see him in the background again, I'll bring him back on. But we welcome all here. We're, of course, we'd all love to be simps, but there's going to be some people who are not simps, and Joey is not a simp, but he obviously thinks about this stuff a lot. He thinks about the market a lot and the effect of moments and minting. All right, he's back. All right, Joey.
Yes.
I don't recall what your point. Well, your last point. Your first one was about the independent minting, and the second one was about against the Dapper wallet. However, we know that the Dapper wallet, they'll never adjust the Dapper wallet. I mean, that's like the dream. That's Roham's dream, is the Dapper wallet. That's like that's the golden idea of like having a Dapper wallet that you can buy and mix and match, and that's like your identity. And one day you'll buy your KFC with your Dapper wallet. So I don't see Dapper wallet. I don't see Dapper wallet ever being adjusted, honestly.
Yeah. So let's talk about what the Dapper wallet does. And like it has a couple very negative effects. The first, as I mentioned before, is that it causes new product to compete with existing product, because it makes it very easy to switch from existing product to new product. You can just sell the old product, goes into your Dapper wallet, super efficient. and you can buy a new product within a minute or whatever. It doesn't take long. The second thing it does is it inflates prices, and it creates this perception that moments are worth more than they are. So let me just explain. Is it possible to share a screen?
Yeah, you can share a screen.
Okay, share screen.
I'm curious where you're going with this one. How a Dapper wallet actually inflates values.
All right. Well, hopefully this makes sense.
Okay.
This is actually the first time I've spoken with anyone about, how do I move this? NBA Top Shot. So just getting some ideas out of like stray thoughts that have popped up in my mind over the last little while, and actually articulating them. Doing that. So hopefully what I'm saying makes a little bit of sense. But can you see this Excel sheet?
Yep, can see it.
Okay. So what the Dapper wallet does is create money velocity. And what that means is dollars that are put into Dapper or whatever, they end up getting spent more than once. So like if I buy a moment from you for $100, okay, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to spend the proceeds again. So all money velocity is just basically the percentage of money that gets respent on average in a given time period. So if we say that on average, 80 cents out of every dollar a person receives, they respend. And I don't know what the actual, like in a given time period, I don't know what the actual number is, but we're just using this as an example to show how the Dapper wallet inflates prices.
So real quick, can you zoom in a little bit? We got some people that would like to see the numbers a little more clearly.
Sure. How's this?
Yeah, that looks better to me.
Okay, so let's just walk through this scenario where on average in a time period, 80 cents out of every dollar gets respent. So the first person, so let's say I buy a moment from someone for $100. That person gets 95, $5 goes to Dapper, right?
Mm-hmm.
That person then takes their 95 and so just backing up for a second, I said 80 cents out of every dollar. That's the same thing as, all of it being respent 5 times and then it all being withdrawn. It works out the same. So anyway, and then that person takes 95 and buys a moment for $95. $4.75 in commission goes to Dapper, and so on. And then so that person is $90.25, does the same thing, and we go here. So by the time we've gone through, by the time this person withdraws their money, we've had $100 put into the market. And just from that $100, we've got one person who thinks they have a moment worth 100. We've got one person who thinks they have a moment worth 95. One person who thinks they have a moment worth 90.25, 85.74, 81.75. And this is all with $100. We've got a total of $452 in value, all supported by $100. They can't all extract their $452. Further, we've got out of that $100, $22.62 is in commission has gone to Dapper. So we're really left with $77.38 that's in the market, supporting a perceived value of $452.44. So the higher the velocity, the more times money is spent, the higher perceived values go. I'm just going to stop sharing there. How do I get back?
Yep, you're back.
Yeah. Okay. So as another just like simple example, let's say there's 100 moments in the marketplace and I put in $100. The average spend per moment is $1 per moment. But now let's say there's insane velocity. I buy from the first person for 100, they buy from the next person for 100, and it goes on and on. We've got 100 people that think they have a $100 moment, but there's only $100. They can't all get $100 for the moment. And that's an effect of the Dapper wallet. You know, with physical cards, when you receive, well, there are two things. One, you receive money that doesn't go into a special pool for buying more cards. That just goes into your general funds. And two, it's a much slower process. So like the number of times money is respent, if it is respent in a period, is much lower. So by increasing the money velocity, the number of times each dollar is spent, it creates this perception that there is tons of value, while at the same time turning the money that is put in into like a very large percentage of commissions for Dapper, and leaving this large perceived value with a small amount of cash to actually support those values. And that is one of like the factors that led to the bubble being so extreme. Now, if remember, we're talking about demand and there being those cash outflows with commissions and packs, but mostly packs here. During the bubble, you know, those cash outflows were restricted, and withdrawals.
I think Roham just cut Joey's internet again. Hold on. I'm going to remove Joey. When I see him moving around in the background, I'll bring him back. So, I mean, I think that what he is talking about there with the spreadsheet is more or less the 5% take. And I was going to make a point or ask Joey about basically, like, doesn't an improved inflow of new users counter effect that? So whether it's cash, or here he is again, he's back there. So Joey, what I was going to ask you, or if you were listening, was just about to simplify that a little bit. I would imagine that it's basically like the 5% theory, or it's the 5%. The 5% out of every sale is you do that enough times over and over again, and that's kind of what you're describing. But I think you're describing something beyond that, which I've never given much thought to, which is the fact that everyone still thinks that they are these larger values than what they are, thanks to the 5% that's coming out over and over again.
Yeah, and it's also the money being spent over and over again. So, you know, the faster money gets respent, and like the larger percentage of money that gets respent, the more people perceive their cards are worth or their moments are worth, because that's what the transactions are going at. But once money gets pulled out, it has this really bad effect on the market, because you have this like tiny bit of cash supporting these large values, and it's easy to make prices plummet by taking out that little bit of cash. If the money velocity were 1, if money didn't get respent, then if you've got $1,000 worth of moments, there's $1,000 to support it. $10 comes out, it's down to, there's $990 to support it. It's not a big deal. But if you've got a velocity of $10 comes out, well, that's $100 effectively that is being pulled out of the market. Anyway, does that make sense?
I think so. I think so. It does involve a little bit of thinking that I probably need to like sit and think to myself for a few days about this. But I think that when it all boils down to, more or less, is it boils back to that cash issue, which you were talking about, which like you have to support values, you need more cash coming in, more users coming in. And I think that's like simply what people are usually asking for moving forward, is any collectible platform like this where you can buy and sell so rapidly. You do need fresh users. You need a user base that is consistently growing if you're going to be creating more and more things that you can buy. And I think that, like, if physical cards, for example, we've seen those dip as well. Physical cards which don't use a shared wallet or anything like that. So I don't know, something just to think about. I don't know if it's related to directly to the Dapper wallet, although I do think that you do have some of what you're saying does make sense. But I do think that there's also these other just things at play as well, because you can compare them to other. I mean, look at like the watch market, look at the physical card market, look at these are all also other collectibles that we are also seeing the ebbs and flows of the market.
Yeah, sure. I mean, money comes out of any market, prices are going to go down. But I don't know. Like if you look at like the Luka Doncic, I had looked at one moment just as an example. The series one was like 35.84 mint or something,
Okay.
whatever one it was. That was regularly selling for $4,000 in February of 2021. And recently it was in the $100 and something range. That's like a 97% drop, and it's not the only moment like that. There are tons of moments that have dropped like just a massive percentage in value from their peak. That's not the case with other collectibles.
Sure, but we have seen that with other NFT collectibles.
Sure.
So it's not independent to the NBA Top Shot, is I guess what I'm trying to say. It's as you said, you're holding some NFTs, as am I, that were worth
it's a
many
digital collectible thing. I haven't given like that much thought to other NFTs, but they probably if like it's probably a similar thing where, well, okay. Yeah, I mean, I haven't really given it much thought, so I don't want to talk about other NFTs just like for my thoughts at 4:12 in the morning here. But
I know, I'll let you go to bed soon.
yeah.
But so we have a couple of comments in here.
Yeah.
So Top Shot Hot Shot was saying Dapper Wallet helps him keep track easier. If it was his personal funds, he would spend more because he only gets monthly statements he never looks at. Tommy G was saying he thinks that players need a bigger cut so they become invested. It's arguable that might be happening on NFL all day because we do seem to see a lot of player interaction there. Dr. Dunks is saying if Dapper creates a fair marketplace, don't you think they can count on new cash coming in from existing users as we further leverage our investment in the platform? And he adds to that saying, not exactly sure what fair would ultimately entail. Some version that allows those with skill to profit.
Okay. My memory's not so good at 4 something a.m. So are we gonna comment on these?
I mean, you can if you have anything you want to add to this.
I just went by. You went through so fast.
Okay, you can actually see the comments on your side too. I think if you just click something on or maybe you can't. Maybe you have to go to the YouTube to see it.
Oh, here, wait, comments, got it. Okay. So which one shall we discuss? Top Shot, Hot Shot, Dapper Wallet helps me keep track easier. If it was my personal bank account, I think I'd spend more because I only get monthly statements I never look at. I don't know. I mean, if you disagree that people are more likely to spend money, like in their Dapper Wallet than their bank account, okay. Sure. For some people, I guess it does have a limiting effect. If you're the type of person that would just throw all your money at a collectible, I'm guessing like you don't have a wife or kids to monitor your personal bank account. There's, at least for me, and I think for most people, money that's already in your Dapper wallet feels like spent money. There's not really a big psychological barrier to taking that money and spending it on a moment. Whereas money in your bank account, you think about all the alternative uses you have for that money. It's like, I'm going to spend $500 on this when I could be doing all these other things. So at least that's my view. And I do think that's the case for most people.
Sure.
I think the players need a bigger cut so they become more invested. The players do have a cut, right? Like there's a licensing agreement with Think 450, the NBPA, the NBA. And that money gets distributed to players. Now, if you're talking about individual players, like the money's just not there to make them care. It seems like there have been a few players that have actually invested in Dapper Labs, and they've become, and then they've got a stake in making things go well. But if you're just talking about getting like a cut from like sales of their moments, these guys have like mega yachts full of money.
Yeah.
So if Dapper creates a fair marketplace, don't you think they can count on new cash coming in from existing users as we further leverage our investment in the platform? I'm not sure I understand the question, but if the marketplace is fair, I mean, if you're saying like the minting and pricing decisions are made keeping in mind the changes in demand, like new cash versus cash leaving the market, and there's some sort of ability to make users confident that that treatment of pricing and minting decisions will continue in perpetuity, then yeah, I mean, that would be fantastic. I think a lot of people would come back in a Top Shot if that happened.
Yeah. I think that's what a lot of people are sort of hanging their hat on and hoping for. And I would say that's, and I didn't mention this in my opener, but like, that this duality of like this super cool thing that they were able to do with the running back packs and get player rights and image rights and put out this really beautiful package stuff. Meanwhile, when I talked to Janie a few weeks ago, and not just that, but everyone's general perception about Series 4 is like net neutral / net negative, definitely keeping track of how many moments are getting added to there and making sure we're net neutral, let's say. I had wished that we would have some idea whenever a new pack gets released in S4, some idea of what is going to neutralize this new supply. That's what I personally felt.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's the reason why put money in when you don't know what they're going to do in the future, and their track record is making decisions that prioritize making revenue or generating revenue over the health of the secondary market. And then also when it comes to net neutrality, it's kind of weird the way they approach that.
I think you mean net neutral, not net neutrality. Or maybe it's the same thing. When I hear net neutrality, I think of like internet rights, but
Switzerland,
anyway.
or I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't know what I'm saying.
Whatever.
But,
we get it.
It's not the number of moments that matters, right? It's the value of moments. So it's weird that, I mean, I guess it's a way of making it appear neutral. But so two things. One, like burning a common and releasing a legendary, there's nothing neutral about that. The money needed to support the new supply is much, 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 much greater than it was to support the old supply. Two, net neutral might not be the right move. It depends on cash coming into the market. If there's a ton of cash coming into the market, well, you can generate a larger, you don't have to be net neutral. If there's a tiny amount coming into the market, or there's even an outflow, then you have to be negative. So just being net neutral with like the number of moments, that doesn't accomplish anything. And it's maybe it's just like an easy goal for people to understand. But if your actual goal is to not have a harmful effect on the secondary market, that's not the way you do it.
Yeah, I think that the way that most people probably perceive that is that if you can have net neutral plus 30 to 60 million dollars in marketing and DraftKings style marketing on NBA broadcasts, then those two things together might work in to benefit people's bags.
Now, my view on marketing is it's kind of like a chicken and the egg situation, right? You're trying to market in order to bring new users in, but if your product is a collectible that you have to watch go down in value, your marketing's not going to be that successful. If instead of spending money on marketing, you just instead of spending, whatever million on marketing, you instead took that money to reduce mint counts so that prices didn't go down. That's your best marketing. Look what happened. If prices are going up or prices are stable, people will come back.
Yeah.
Although not really, because I didn't want to get too positive for a moment there. Because there's still that risk that in the future they'll revert to their old ways of over minting and causing prices in the secondary market to decline.
Do you think that if communications were better in terms of roadmap, or because I think that's what the goal was with, let's say, with the previous roadmap, right? And what people are anticipating this new Series 4 roadmap for as well, is to get an idea of how many commons, how many rares, how many legendaries, of how many player, et cetera, et cetera. So like if that was more clear, which you were just kind of alluding, I mean, your fear and uncertainty and doubt about the future, let's say, releases of all the different tiers and all the different players, if that was all way more clear, then wouldn't that address your fears?
Sure, but it's got to be that roadmap's got to go pretty far, and it's risky, right? Making a roadmap that goes out that far, and it might not be the right roadmap. We don't want to create, like if you could choose what happens to prices going forward, like what is the optimal path? It's not clear what is best, but like if you have a fixed path on the supply side, it's either going to be wrong by being like over minting and causing prices decline, and then you're going to have to deviate to kind of rescue the product, or it's going to be wrong in the other direction, where money keeps coming in and prices keep rising, and you create this expectation that the ratio of new cash to supply is going to continue like that going forward, and they're then going to, but it's not, right? If new cash is coming in, eventually they're going to want to increase supply, and that's going to create disappointment. So anyway, I think the best roadmap is a dynamic one that is not created by Dapper Labs, and is based on measurable metrics like cash coming into the market. But so if, like, let's say they make that information public, new cash, cash going out, and you say, look, we'll mint, within a certain range, and it'll be based on, based on those factors, like the factors that really affect prices. Like I think that would be best, but it's complicated, right? Like it would be tough to clearly communicate, certainly to like people that are new to the product. So I do think the absolute best thing is to hand the product or the decisions over to an independent body that is tasked with clear principles everyone can understand. Our goal is to maximize the long run growth of the product. Our goal is to make minting decisions and pricing decisions so that the secondary demand for the for secondary market moments doesn't decrease. Do that, and I think that's pretty exciting because no collectible's ever done that before.
Okay.
And I think that's what Web3 is all about, or should be all about, instead of what it is now. But this is like the most centralized collectible ever. It doesn't just control supply for new products; it controls demand for existing products.
Mm. Okay, so we need a dapper overseer or a dapper. I think didn't ESPN once have the ombudsman? It was very not subjective whatsoever and completely
Yeah,
objective and just comment
sure.
on things. And so who knows? Maybe we'll get a dapper ombudsman one day. Sounds like that would make you happy.
I think that's the best thing for the product. Um, but I don't know if that is what Dapper wants. I don't. I like if Dapper's goal is actually what is best for the long term of the product. Um, for the reasons you mentioned before, it's got investors and it's got partners, and there's no guarantee that it has a product if it doesn't produce results in the next few years. Because with sports cards, for example, right? Like Panini had licenses for NBA through like 2026 or 2027 or something. And then last year, like 5 years in advance of the contract expiring, the NBPA and then NBA, they gave a license to Fanatics. Uh, you know, we're 5, 6 years away from the NBA Top Shot license expiring. If someone else comes in, Fanatics or I don't know, some new company, and makes them a fantastic pitch and makes them believe that they're going to make more money with the other party, and, why wouldn't they go with it?
Yeah, I mean, just speaking in my opinion, objectively, I just can't imagine that. Like the only thing that's even close to what NBA Top Shot has been able to create thus far, in terms of product, in terms of UX, UI, design, logistics, wallet, everything. I mean, I don't even know. Candy? I'm not even sure. So I suppose that there's always risks involved, but I would imagine that the chances of that are quite low.
Well, on the tech side, what Dapper has done with like the Top Shot marketplace is extraordinary, right? Like it's a great marketplace, but they've made it. The hard part was inventing it, or like being the first to do it. It's not hard to be the second person to do something. You just make like minor improvements and you're better.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I suppose that you could go back in history and look at anything like Microsoft Windows used to be the big show in town, and it no longer is as much. I think Apple has probably overtaken. I would think. I actually don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is actually, but it feels that way. Um, but anyhow, I feel like we could probably cover dozens of other topics, and I think that I think we've gotten a good explanation of how you're currently feeling, what your concerns are, and what your ideas are for how this could potentially be different in your opinion, how you might feel a little bit better about the situation. But I mean, we're at about an hour and a half. I know it's like 4:30 a.m. for you right now. I know you're hopped up on espresso, so you might not be sleeping tonight. Um, but yeah, I appreciate you taking the time. For those who are not following Joey Bats, you can put your handle in there because I know it's baller something or other. Let me go find that again. Here it is. I'll put it in the chat. That is the handle. That's Joey's handle at ballers8012. Is there any meaning behind that name, or that's just your ballers ID?
that was just the ballers. Oh yeah, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, next time we'll talk about ballers, maybe, or I don't know. But yeah, it seems like people really enjoyed the chat. I would imagine most of the people that come to hang out are more on the Top Shot stand side of which, by the way, you are a Top Shot stand. It's just so you understand. You're not a Top Shot simp, but you are a Top Shot stand. You
I
might
don't
be one of the
understand what either of those things mean, but
so
yeah,
as
okay.
I understand it, if you ever watch like the Eminem music video, Stan, he's like obsessed. He like can't stop thinking about
Oh,
it.
yeah,
He's
where
he,
Stan comes from. Oh my, I'm such an idiot. Okay.
and I
Yeah.
think there's some other explanation, but that's how I understand it. There might even be like an Urban Dictionary. Let's look that up real quickly. Let's see what a Stan is. Urban
All
Dictionary.
right.
Stan is a mix of a stalker and a fan, and it is actually a reference to the Eminem song. a stalker and a fan. All right. I don't know if you're a stalker, but I would imagine that you are very much a fan. You think about it. You make spreadsheets about it. So that, yeah, you're a stan. What you're not is you're not a simp. A simp is someone who's just like a simp. What a simp is, right? Or no?
What is it, like an idiot?
No, I
What
wouldn't
is
say
this?
I wouldn't say it's an idiot, but it's. So a simp is someone, I guess the definition is someone who does way too much for a person that they like. I never really understood it like that. I always understood a simp as just someone who like loves something unabashedly and like will defend it to their dying days. They just love it, and they don't care. They can't hear anything about it. They just love something. That's how I see a simp.
Okay, well, yeah, then I would not be a Top Shot simp.
No,
That's
not a simp, but a stan.
yeah.
Anyway, so it sounds like people enjoyed the chat. Maybe we'll talk again in a few months, and we'll see where things are at. And but for now, definitely keep track of Joey at his Twitter handle, Ballers8012. So Joey, thanks again for making the time. I really do appreciate it, and I hope that you're not feeling too terrible tomorrow morning.
Thanks. Yeah, it was great chatting with you, and my apologies to everybody for what I'm sure were some incoherent rants earlier on. I will definitely never watch this video. But yeah, in a few months, yeah, let's chat again.
All right. Well, thank you, Joey. I'll take care.
All right, cheers. Take care.
All right. Well, that was the show, guys. I hope that you enjoyed it. Definitely a little bit of a different tone. But as I said earlier, simps, we welcome simps, we welcome stands of all kinds. So thank you for joining us tonight. I appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next week, I think. So take care, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Static Selector.